let's just make this casual.
Oh, yes, so casual.
So how did you first come up with your topic? What was that process like for you?
It became very clear to me as I started dating men that I kind of hate them like a lot, and like maybe I shouldn't be like, oh, I hate all men, but like I think I do. So I wanted to see what I could do to make them a little more uncomfortable on the first date, and how much I could terrify them with them like still acting polite and like not spilling water all over their bodies and like looking like they're gonna cry.
It definitely takes so much courage, I feel like, to make crazy decisions like that.
It's just psychosis.
In like intimate situations.
But like I feel like a first date is not intimate because like you don't, okay, like it's supposed to be, but like really if you're trying to like impress them, then you're lying. Or if you're trying to terrify them, I'm not lying, but like maybe you're lying. You know what I mean? I'm just terrifying.
Honestly, you're right. How do you like sum up what you wrote?
So it's like a combination of like Dubliners by James Joyce and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I'm going on dates with random adult men that I meet on the internet in public places because that's safe. Unless they have a cat, in which case I will go to their apartment and risk murder. But I'm trying to exaggerate my already odd personality to like the nth degree by making horrible jokes about death and my death and their death and serial killer, a lot of murder that's in there, and then also like pornographic elements of classic literature, and like throw that at them in like a date environment to like kind of see what happens. So like I'm doing stand-up, but they don't know that this is they don't know what they're getting into.
They're really in the dark.
Yeah.
So what has the process been with like trying to achieve results that don't necessarily happen the way that you first imagined them?
I think it's like it's harder to like actually be as dramatic in person as you want. So like maybe I think I'm being terrifying, but obviously not enough if the man isn't like, oh, I'm gonna go. Like I want someone to never contact me again. That's the next step. But like it's like I don't know, I wanna like I guess then I focus on smaller details to like see what is more abnormal. Because even if someone isn't running away, if they're like look like they're paralyzed a little bit or like are twitching, like ever so slightly, maybe they're a little uncomfortable.
So it's definitely like by trial.
Yes, it's trial and error and really uncomfortable conversations on like Bumble, like, hey, what's your favorite book? And everyone's like, 1984 or like The Great Gatsby.
You're like, see ya.
Honestly, sometimes I see that and I'm just like, I don't have time to play with you. The Great Gatsby is your favorite book. Like, I also graduated the 10th grade. Like, I had that phase, but I've moved on.
So what's been like your favorite part about writing this piece?
I think like putting a lot of the internal thoughts I have about comedy into like words and then applying them to reality. Because I feel like it's a weird thing to like try and show your worst qualities on a first date. That's maybe not the best way to go about it. But on the one hand, it's kind of honest in that like that's it's exaggerated, but it is who I am. So it's like, oh, I'm being honest. And like, that's enjoyable to like see myself as a character doing that. And also it's like nice to kind of like grapple with like kind of like the like cognitive things going on in my head when I'm like trying to scare someone in person.
What's been like the most difficult part?
I guess also just like documenting it in like an authentic way. Cause like I've had like my phone recording in my pocket, which is super shady. But like I need to know exactly what they say. Right. And I don't want to like, I want the dialogue to be as exact as possible because that actually makes it more awkward and like captures this like horrifying dynamic I've created. But I also like listening to the tapes makes me cry because I'm like, I cannot like watch my tangible humiliation like come alive before me. But like here we are. Like I remember like telling my mom, I was like, all right, I'm going to meet men on the internet and make them sad that they're alive with me in this moment. And she was like, okay, I'm glad I'm like paying tuition to Penn for you to do this. And I was like, thanks for your support, Carol. So it's definitely out there. But like,
it's so awesome we have this opportunity. I feel like most English classes, when you're assigned a paper, like you're bored, you don't really find interest in like what you're like writing about. Like
horrible,
what do you think
boring English papers
like you're taking away?
I think it's interesting to like be able to, I guess, create choices and like have control over that. Like even though like you can't fabricate things, but the fact that like if I don't get the result with one guy, I can be like, all right, I'm gonna go on another date and like make it more extreme to get this like outcome. One pushes you over the edge, but also you have the power to make the story more interesting. and you have to do it. Like, I feel like I will not be satisfied until something insane happens, and I'm waiting for that.
It's totally an experiment.
Yeah, it's
like, I feel like we never think of writing as being experimental.
No.
Or just, like, science.
Yeah, because you have to, like, add all the right components, and...
It really is, like, a formula to get, like, the perfect story, I feel like. And the craziest story.
Hopefully, the craziest story. That would be ideal. Yeah.
But I feel like you're really on your way there.
Oh, good. That's great, because I have spent many mornings staring in the mirror being like, is this what I'm doing with my day? And then I leave and talk about crying into Dante's open mouth. I think, like, to start, do you want to summarize, like, what your story is?
I don't even know, yeah. I think what Sleep No More does, which is so incredible, is that they literally create a world for an audience member. And as someone in this class, I was able to take advantage of this world and, like you said, make choices that would make my story more interesting. So my piece kind of started out where I was telling the readers, like, this is my second time doing this. I know the tricks. I've read the fandom pages. Like, I know that I can do this to get, like, this result.
Yeah.
Whereas my second draft was completely taking that out and having, I feel like, the readers really go through it with me and completely being confused as to what's going on. I mean, they have no idea what's going on, but, like, I really didn't have any idea what was going on. But what my goal was with the piece was to use, like, the tricks to get the one-on-ones that I had done, like, copious research on this fan.
Like, deep dives into the internet.
This fan world of, like, you have to say this to someone or, like, be at this spot when this scene is taking place to have, like, this experience. Yeah.
So I guess it's a really, like, interesting kind of combination of both reality and, like, I guess unreality. Like, as you're going through it, how are you, I guess, differentiating, like, character from, like, your experience? Like, the characters you're seeing around you versus, like, yourself as a character and trying to document, like, juxtaposition.
I feel like it's super interesting because at Sleep No More, they make all the audience members wear white masks.
Yeah.
But the fact is, once you get a one-on-one with someone, they take off your mask. Like, you become one with them and you join this, like, insane dance performance. And, like, you can't speak, but when I'm being wheeled around in a wheelchair in the dark, I'm definitely a part of the show.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I think makes it so incredible, is that an audience member is not sitting in a chair and doesn't, like, purchase a ticket to just watch. You're running, you're sprinting downstairs, up and down, through corridors, running into secret rooms, unlocking experiences with people, and no one has the same experience, which is what makes it just so incredible. But to answer your question, it is kind of difficult to distinguish, like, watching the show versus, or, like, watching the character. Like, when the boy witch was sobbing in the shower, it was difficult for me as Zoe to be like, should I hand him a towel? But because I did go in with the intention of making the craziest decisions I could, I would take characters' hands, and, like, I did want to give them attention and be bold. The whole piece was really about being as bold as I could be to achieve, like, really great results and to make my piece just more experiential.
So do you think if you weren't, I guess, doing an experimental nonfiction project, like, would you be a much more passive audience member? Would you have done all of the things that you did?
So now doing it 4 times, because I did it twice before and now twice for the project. The first time I did it, I completely watched, hands off. I didn't do anything, really confused the entire time. Didn't really understand the concept of one-on-ones until actually the second show, when I saw someone take someone into a room. And I was, like, very confused by it and did research. But I honestly don't think that I would have made as crazy decisions in terms of, like, following characters specifically to have an interaction with them.
Yeah.
I feel like I really had to be bold, and I am a bold person, but
it's, like, to the nth degree.
I really, like you in your piece, how to put on kind of a new persona with different goals and mindset.
And how does that change the way you're thinking about nonfiction writing as, like, a genre? Because I feel like we think of that as, like, very much reporting on the facts, and, like, you can't change anything. You don't really have the power to, like, make any points. It's just what's there. How has that changed for you?
I know it's crazy because there is no evidence. The evidence just, like, lives on in, like, my brain and my eye, like, from what I saw. Like, there is no one to corroborate what happens in Sleep No More, which I think is really amazing. But it's so different than reporting and having to direct quotes. Like, no one knows really what happens except the performer and an audience member.
So what drew your interest in the piece, and why did you decide to go through and experience it again?
I think it was really from my first experience doing Sleep No More. I just wanted more. I craved it. I immediately sought answers on my phone, like, for what I had experienced, and there were no answers. And I think that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
And it really, when I thought of, like, an experience to have, once I thought of Sleep No More, like, it was just done. I was writing about Sleep No More. I was going to New York. I was doing the show for 6 hours. Like, I was going to get the craziest experiences I could, and I haven't once regretted it. Like, it has been so meaningful to me, especially since the show just, in a lot of ways, changed my perception of performance and theater and, like, presentation of self.
And I think that ties into a lot of the XFic themes, because it's all about playing with reality and, like, while you're going through the show, like, what is real, who's doing what. I feel like it's very hard to tell, like, what's part of it and what's just you going through it.
There were many times where I was like, did that actually just happen? And it's kind of like the show drives you insane.
That's
because
amazing.
You're just, like, constantly questioning if things actually happened, or, like, where you are and what's being, like, not said because they can't speak, but what is being, like, acted. This, like, interaction through dance is, like, really something that I'd love to do more research on in the future too.
It makes me want to go, and
you have
I'm
to.
scared.
Like, every person should experience Sleep No More. Like, readers of this piece or not, like, I would recommend it just as, like, a life experience that you should have. You should be thrown into a 5-story warehouse and have no idea what you're getting yourself into, who you're going to meet, or how you're going to feel about it. Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, I am. Thanks for penciling me into your very hectic schedule.
I loved learning more about your piece.
I feel like now I'm, like, going to get on a bus and, like, go throw myself to, like, this horrifying alternate reality that I'm kind of into.
I feel like now I'm going to go on a date with a guy.
Don't do it.
And say something really crazy and see how he reacts.
Probably won't, because men are paralyzed by stoicism.